3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll launch it at pub date, and yeah, if you lean back just a little bit further back from where you are, yeah, that's perfect. So it'll be like radio in the sense that I won't really interrupt you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll find that this is a little bit like talking to somebody overseas. There's a little bit of a lag.
Okay, and if I start to say something and I don't like where the sentence is going, I can just stop because you're going to edit it, right?
Right.
And start over. Okay, and I have my coffee here. All right, I'm all set.
Yeah, and just don't move the screen while we're talking, and you'll be. Let me just show Arden what. This is Arden, by the way.
Hi. Hello, Arden. How are you?
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear her. So.
She said it's nice to meet you too. She can't hear you, but so anyway, Diane, I used to be the literary director of the Texas Book Festival, and you came 1 year.
A little louder, please.
I used to be the literary director of the Texas Book Festival.
Oh yes, that was wonderful.
Yeah, and you came 1 year, so
I loved it.
nice to meet you again.
Thank you.
And congrats on this book. We loved it. Yeah. So let me. I want to ask you both about the contents of the book and about your kind of mindset while writing it. But one of the things that is at the heart of this book is this idea that you write that humans have created, quote, planetary chaos, but you're also, quote, enormously hopeful. Why do you feel hopeful?
There's no question. We have created a lot of planetary chaos. We haven't meant to, but we have, and we're going to have to take care of it immediately and wholeheartedly. But I'm enormously hopeful because human beings are great problem solvers. We're dreamsmiths. We can change the planet. We've already proven that we can change the planet, not necessarily for the better, but if we put our collective minds to it, we can. We can restore it. There is still time. We can halt climate change. We can ease the plight of people who are the most vulnerable right now, and we can restore the environment. We still have a lot of options, and we have an enormous amount of ingenuity and talent. Our sins are great, but our gifts are immeasurable.
Yeah. So just in what you were saying to me right now, I mean, it's a little bit of a balancing act. And one of the things that I admired about this book is that it feels like a little bit of a balancing act that you pull off well. In other words, no one wants to write a doom and gloom book, yet you don't want to be overly rosy. I mean, did writing this book feel like a balancing act to you?
One of the most fascinating things about writing the book was discovering what an impact the human race has been, mainly in the last 200 years, how much planetary madness we've created, but also how many people are at work all over the world in very inspiring ways to find solutions to the predicaments that we've gotten ourselves into. So yes, a balancing act was required to the extent that I'm equally fascinated by the harm we've done and the wonders that we've created. I don't think it's an either-or proposition. We're in the midst of many revolutions at the same time, not just climate change. We're also in the midst of a digital revolution, a sustainability revolution, a 3D printing manufacturing revolution, a revolution in the way that we picture the body, a scary mass extinction of animals, plus the alarming signs of climate change. Oh, and a nanotechnology revolution too. And don't forget all of the industrial strength add-ons to our senses all of a sudden. So my book is about climate change and sustainability, but only partly. It's also about how we're changing as a species in response to many of the revolutions that are happening simultaneously. human beings have walked the planet for about 200,000 years, but it's only in the past 200 years that we've become the most powerful source of change on the earth. We've left our signature everywhere, in all of the life forms, on all of the continents, and in all of the oceans. Well, that is unparalleled in the entire history of the planet. Nearly all of the wonders that we associate with modern life have come about in just the past 200 years. And in the past 20 years, that's been accelerating at a mind-boggling pace. And so I naturally began to wonder, what's next? And part of the great fun of this book was visiting a lot of people who are on the front lines of the what's next question and discovering some of what our future will entail.
Right. And one of the other nice things about the book is I mean, this is a very, broad discussion you're having here. It's about evolution and humanity and nature, but you located in some, nice and very specific debates and kind of examples. And one of those is this sort of debate that happened in your town about this worry about the overpopulation of deer. Could you talk a little bit about that debate and maybe why you included it in the book?
One of the revolutions that we're dealing with is that we're now finding wild animals living among us in our cities. There are 2,000 coyotes in downtown Chicago, for example, and there are prairie dogs building towns in the middle of other cities, in cemeteries and parks. And we're torn as a species. On the one hand, we think that we've driven nature out. We have houses and we have glass windows and doors, but what we didn't anticipate is that this was the animals' range before it was ours, and we're not only taking up some of the space they still want, we're actually offering them much more appealing buffets than they could find in the wild. We have all of these tended gardens, for example. So deer have been invading communities all over the country, and my little town is no exception. We've had some serious deer wars. The council would like to allow sharpshooters to come in and shoot all of the deer. So now my town is split between the deer lovers and the deer haters. The deer haters are concerned that the deer are eating up all of their very expensive plantings. The deer lovers love their plants, but they also love the deer. And they feel very much a part of the natural world. So, for example, I have a deer fence around all of the roses in my backyard, but I consider the front yard a deer buffet, and I love seeing the deer. I love when does bring their little speckled fawns to come and visit. But the wars have been really contentious, and at the moment, unfortunately, we are going to have sharpshooters. The law was passed. It will be sharpshooters using bows and arrows. This is not good for many reasons. For example, do you really want your small children to see wounded deer walking around the neighborhoods? Bambi, deer that they identify with the reindeer that pull Santa's sled. I don't think you want that. But also they're allowed to shoot within 500 feet of buildings. Who can be that accurate? Do you want sharpshooters within 500 feet of schools and backyards? The intensity of anger on both sides is very shocking, and it gives a sense of how conflicted we really are about nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a nice part of the book, so thank you for talking about it. The other, well, there are many things, but one of the other topics that really interests me, and I kind of have to be a well-read person for, given what my job is, but I knew nothing about iPS therapy. Could you talk a little bit about it, because I thought it might interest people, and why did you include it in the book?
An awful lot of people are concerned about genetically modified organisms um, all over the world. But one thing that we have to keep in mind is that we have been altering the genes of organisms for as long as there have been human beings. The animals that we have around us now look nothing like their ancestors. The corn that we put on the table doesn't look anything like the original corn. We have been using eugenics in the past. We've been breeding different specimens and hoping to get the traits that we want. What we're able to do now, and what is very different, is that we can reach right into the DNA and change it. And we can create the kinds of stem cells we want, even out of skin, for example. All right, we were able to do that for a while. And what has changed even beyond that is that we can combine different species for the first time. That should give us pause. Do we really want to have tomatoes that have the genes of salmon in them? Do we really need to have animals that fluoresce green for our amusement? And what happens if we start mixing species in this kind of way? So on the one hand, we do want to be able to cure some horrible genetic diseases. And it would be nice to be able to breed modified mosquitoes that will wipe out, say, dengue fever. This is happening right now. But we don't want to take chances with other kinds of creations. So the bottom line is that we are right at a turning point now where we have the power to do lots of stem cell engineering, make serious changes in life forms, create new kinds of life forms, but we need to keep a very, very close watch on it because we could create monsters.
I want to ask you a little bit about yourself, I guess.
All wrong, excuse me.
No, that's okay. You do a good job of, being very specific in the book, but I'm, interested in the kind of intellect where you would say to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to write about a book about the entire Anthropocene age." Did the book ever feel overwhelming or too ambitious to you? Was it frightening to you ever as a project?
Oddly enough, no. I mean, yes, it's certainly very hard to come up to speed on so many aspects of everyday life, especially since they're revolutionary. Suddenly I had to learn about robotics, 3D printing with live cells, the frozen ark, and how we are restoring, I'm sorry, I'm going to just start that over.
Okay.
How did I start that?
You said it wasn't actually that frightening.
Certainly it was a challenge to come up to speed all of a sudden on so many different disciplines. I had to learn about the most recent discoveries in science and technology, about the pioneers in robotics, about 3D printing, with live cells and being able to print human organs. All of that was fascinating. And it doesn't feel like many different quests to me. It's a little bit, I think, like learning many languages at the same time when you're a child. All of the universe fascinates me, and it fascinates me in detail. And all of my books, whatever they pretend to be about, are part of a single mosaic. And and help me try to understand what the experience of being human was all about. I want to know ultimately what it was like to have once been alive on the planet, what it smelled like and tasted like and hurt like and thrilled like and loved like, what the experience of being alive was all about. Now I know that in theory that should take my entire life and the lifetimes of many other people and include all of consciousness, and it should be fraught completely with failure. But you know, I don't think of it like that. I don't think of it in terms of goals or successes. I think of it as a mystery trip. And the universe revealing itself, my learning new things every day, that just puts me in such a state of wonder that it sends words down my spine. And I find myself writing a book.
Oh, that's great. Well, you did a great job. You know, having read your work before, I mean, I kind of think of you as a poet who happens to write about science.
Yes.
Not a lot of poets do. Well, tell me how you became interested in science in the first place.
I never wanted to choose between the humanities and the sciences. I began as a poet. I'm going to back up a second. Just start over. Nice to be able to do that on recorded radio, too. When I was a teenager, I read that the sweat of schizophrenics smelled different from the sweat of other people. And I thought, that's fascinating. And I've always wanted to learn about the mind. And so I went to school in a combination of psychology and philosophy. And when I changed colleges as a freshman, the computer put me in English by mistake. And I just assumed it was fate. I continued in English literature, and I had been writing poetry shyly but enthusiastically my whole life. I continued, but I never lost my interest in the sciences. And when I went to graduate school, I was able to pursue both. It's unfortunate that in our country, students have to choose between the humanities and the sciences when they go to college, as if the universe were knowable from only one perspective. I never felt that way. So when I went to grad school, my graduate committee for 3 degrees included a poet, A.R. Ammons, and a scientist, Carl Sagan. And they ran interference for me. As a result, I could do a very interdisciplinary degree. I don't want to be a scientist. I love the revelations of science. And I mainly see myself as a nature poet. A nature poet in whatever I write. So yes, there's a lot of poetry in my science, a lot of science in my poetry, and it's just that I don't see the world divided in that way with some kind of checkpoint Charlie in the middle, and you have cornflowers on one side and quarks on the other. All of it is nature. Termites build mounds, humans build megacities, but all of it is nature. And so I think of myself as a nature writer if what we mean by nature is all of creation.
Yeah, well, that's great. So the computer made the mistake, and here you are.
And here I am. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it is pretty funny. Well, we love the book, as I said, and you did a great job on it.
Thank you so much. It really was one of the most fascinating books I've ever written, precisely because I had to learn so many things, and I woke up every day and rubbed my hands together and said, oh boy, what am I going to learn today?
Yeah, well, that's apparent. I mean, that's...
Yeah, plus I got to not only learn things, but muse about the human condition.
Yeah.
Discovery and musing, what could be better?
Yeah, you did a great job, so congrats, and we'll get this ready for pub date, and
Would
we'll...
you get a copy?
Yeah, we will.
That would be fun. Just because I've never done this hangout thing before.
Yeah, it's
But
kind of
now
nice.
my husband and I are going to do it while I'm on book tour now. We've
Oh,
practiced.
that's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah. As long as you can get used to the lag in time, it's pretty nice.
It's kind of like those original telephone calls transatlantic, where you had to
Yeah.
wait to hear that little echo, echo, echo.
Yeah. The new technology is just like the old technology. So, congrats. Thanks for your time, and we'll get this ready for pub date.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting
Okay.
you guys.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.